My name is Victoria Hayes. And what I'm about to share isn't just a story. It's the nightmare I lived through, and the revenge that gave me my life back. I grew up in a quiet neighborhood in Texas. My parents worked hard, and they taught me that love, loyalty, and honesty are the pillars of any relationship. Maybe that's why when I met Daniel Hayes in college, I thought my life was finally complete. Daniel wasn't just handsome. He was smart, charming, the kind of man every girl dreamed about. He made me laugh, he supported my dreams, and he made me believe in forever. When he proposed to me under the city lights in Dallas, I said yes without a second thought. We got married, bought a house, and soon had 2 little kids, a boy and a girl. To the outside world, we looked like the perfect American family. The kind you see in holiday commercials. Smiling faces, matching pajamas, backyard barbecues. But behind closed doors, things weren't so perfect. Daniel started coming home late, always with some excuse about work meetings or urgent projects. He guarded his phone like a soldier guarding classified information. I tried to ignore it. I told myself, Victoria, you're overthinking. He's just stressed. He loves you. But deep down I knew. A woman always knows. One night, around midnight, Daniel was in the shower when his phone buzzed. I don't know what came over me, but I picked it up. My hands trembled as I unlocked it, and there it was. A message from someone saved as, Melissa 2 hearts. Last night was amazing. I can't wait to feel your arms around me again. My heart stopped. My vision blurred. For a moment I couldn't breathe. This wasn't some stranger. This was my husband. The man I had built my life with. The father of my children. I scrolled further and found months of messages, hotel reservations, gifts, proof that Daniel had been living a double life. While I was at home raising our kids, cooking dinner and keeping the family together, he was out there living a fantasy with another woman. I remember staring at his phone in complete silence, listening to the sound of the shower running. I didn't scream. I didn't confront him. Instead, something inside me shifted. The Victoria who believed in forever died that night. And the new Victoria, the one who would plan the perfect revenge, was born. This isn't just a story about betrayal. This is the story of how I made Daniel Hayes and his mistress regret ever underestimating me. The night I discovered Daniel's betrayal, I barely slept. I lay there next to him, listening to his steady breathing, wondering how he could sleep so peacefully after tearing my world apart. My chest felt heavy, but my mind was sharp. I knew one thing for certain. Confronting him right away would give him power. He would lie, twist the truth, maybe even blame me. Well, I couldn't let that happen. If I wanted real justice, I had to be smart. The first step was information. I needed to know everything about his affair. So, while Daniel left for work the next morning, I started digging. I checked his laptop when he forgot to log out, went through his credit card statements, and even connected with a friend who worked at the hotel he often used. Piece by piece, the puzzle came together. Melissa wasn't just some fling. She was a co-worker from his firm. Younger, single, ambitious. The kind of woman who probably thought she had won, because she stole a husband away from his family. But she hadn't won. Not yet. For weeks I played my role perfectly. I cooked dinner, smiled when Daniel walked in, kissed him goodnight, all while I gathered evidence. Every receipt, every message, every hotel reservation. I saved them all. Meanwhile, I started planning my life without him. I secretly met with a divorce lawyer, a sharp woman named Karen Miller, who immediately became my ally. She told me something that gave me hope. Victoria, with the evidence you're collecting, the court will be on your side. You can protect your kids, your finances, and your future. That was all I needed to hear. But I didn't just want to leave Daniel. I wanted him to feel the same pain he made me feel. I wanted him to know what it was like to have everything ripped away. So I started with small steps. I opened my own bank account and slowly transferred little amounts of money that he wouldn't notice. I updated my resume, reached out to old contacts, and within a month, I had secured a part-time job teaching at a local school. It wasn't much, but it was mine. Then came the day I'll never forget. Daniel walked in one Friday night, dressed too nice for work. I greeted him with a smile and pretended nothing was wrong. He kissed me on the cheek, distracted, and went upstairs to shower. While he was in the bathroom, I quietly placed my phone on the dresser and hit record. When he came out, towel around his waist, he made a call. I caught every word. "Melissa, I can't stop thinking about you. Tonight was amazing. Don't worry, she suspects nothing." Had him. That recording, along with the evidence I'd already gathered, was the final nail in his coffin. The next morning I dropped the kids at my mother's house, came back home, and calmly placed divorce papers on the kitchen table. When Daniel walked in, I'll never forget the look on his face. Confusion. And then fear. He tried to laugh it off. He tried to deny everything. But when I pressed play on that recording, his face turned pale. He stuttered, begged, even dropped to his knees. "Victoria, please, it was a mistake. Love you. Don't do this." But it was too late. I looked him dead in the eyes and said, "No, Daniel. You don't get to destroy me and walk away unscathed. This is just the beginning." That was the moment I saw it, the fear of losing control. And it was the sweetest thing I had ever felt. After I dropped the divorce papers on the table, I thought Daniel would finally realize the consequences of his choices. But men like him, they don't give up easily. He spent the next few days trying everything to win me back. Flowers, gifts, late-night apologies. He even showed up at my school job with a bouquet of roses, pretending to be the perfect husband. But I wasn't buying it. Not anymore. The old Victoria, the one who cried herself to sleep and begged for answers, she was gone. This Victoria was focused, calm, and ready to hit him where it hurt most. His reputation, his money, and his mistress. First, I let the legal process work its magic. My lawyer, Karen, was a shark. With the mountain of evidence I had, she made it clear that I would get full custody of the kids, majority rights to the house, and a good chunk of Daniel's income. Every lie he told, every dollar he spent on Melissa, was about to cost him 10 times over. But I wanted more than just financial security. I wanted justice. So I decided to expose the affair publicly. Daniel's firm had strict policies about employee relationships, especially with subordinates. Melissa wasn't just his mistress. She was his junior. That gave me the perfect weapon. One afternoon I typed up an anonymous email. Attached were screenshots of their texts, pictures of hotel receipts, and yes, that recording. I sent it straight to HR. Within a week, both Daniel and Melissa were called into meetings. He was suspended pending investigation, and she was placed on leave. Suddenly their romance didn't look so shiny anymore. The walls were closing in. And while they scrambled, I quietly rebuilt myself. I expanded my hours at school, started attending community events, and leaned on friends I had lost touch with during my marriage. For the first time in years I felt alive. Free. But Daniel, he was crumbling. One night he showed up at my door, drunk and angry. He banged on the door, yelling, accusing me of ruining his life. The kids were terrified. I called the police, and when they arrived, he tried to play the victim. But I had everything documented. The affair, his temper, his financial recklessness. The officers looked him in the eye and said, "Sir, you need to leave. Right now." That night, as his car pulled away, I realized something. I wasn't just surviving. I was winning. Melissa, on the other hand, was getting a taste of reality too. Word about the affair spread around their office, and she quickly went from being admired to being whispered about. Her career was damaged, her reputation stained. She thought she was stealing a man from his wife, but what she really stole was her own future. Meanwhile, Daniel's suspension turned into termination. Without his job, his income plummeted. And since I had already secured child support and alimony through court, the little money he managed to scrape together went directly to us. It was poetic justice. But the real satisfaction came when Melissa finally left him. After all the sacrifices he made, risking his marriage, his kids, his career. She walked away the moment things got hard. I almost laughed when I found out. And as for me, I stood taller than ever. I wasn't the broken woman I had been when I first read that message. I was stronger, sharper, and braver. I had taken the pain and turned it into power. Sometimes at night I would sit by the window, sipping tea, watching the kids sleep peacefully. And I would think, Daniel thought he destroyed me. But he only created a version of me that he could never handle. And that, to me, was the sweetest revenge of all. By the time Daniel lost his job and Melissa walked out on him, I thought the worst was over. But life has a way of testing you, to see if you're really as strong as you claim. Daniel tried everything to make me miserable. He filed motions in court, claiming I was turning the kids against him. He told mutual friends that I was a cold, heartless woman who destroyed our marriage. He even tried to cut down on child support, arguing he couldn't afford it without his job. But I had come too far to let him win. My lawyer and I countered every single move. We presented evidence of his reckless spending, his affair, and his unstable behavior. The judge saw through his lies and ruled in my favor again and again. Each court date was another reminder to Daniel that he no longer had control over me. The truth. He hated seeing me thrive without him. While he spiraled, I built something new. I expanded my teaching job into a full-time position. I even started writing part-time, something I had always dreamed of before my marriage. Local magazines picked up my articles, and for the first time in years, my own name, Victoria Hayes, started to mean something outside of being Daniel's wife. And oh, the satisfaction I felt every time people complimented my strength. I wasn't just surviving. I was becoming someone my kids could look up to. But I still wasn't finished with Daniel. Not yet. I had one last card to play. You see, Daniel's family had always thought I was the lucky one to have married him. They saw him as the golden boy. Successful, charming, the perfect husband. They never really liked me, never gave me the respect I deserved. So, one evening, I invited his parents over for dinner. When they arrived, Daniel wasn't there. I made sure of that. Over a calm, polite meal, I showed them the evidence. The texts, the hotel receipts, even the recording. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't insult him. I just let the truth speak for itself. His mother's face turned pale. His father shook his head in disgust. That night, the illusion of perfect Daniel shattered in front of the very people who had worshipped him all his life. And the best part, I didn't have to say a single bad word about him. The truth was enough. After that, Daniel's support system crumbled. His parents stopped defending him, his friends distanced themselves, and even his siblings sided with me. Suddenly, he wasn't just a failed husband. He was a man completely exposed. And me. I felt lighter than ever. For the first time in years, I could breathe without fear. I could smile without pretending. And every step I took forward reminded me that revenge isn't always about rage. Sometimes it's about patience, intelligence, and letting the truth burn brighter than any lie. Daniel Hayes thought he had broken me. But in the end, he broke himself. I rose from the ashes stronger than I had ever been. By the time Daniel's family turned against him, I thought I had seen him at his lowest. But rock bottom is deeper than most people imagine. Without his job, without Melissa, and now without his family's support, Daniel began unraveling fast. He sold his car, moved into a tiny apartment, and started picking up odd jobs just to keep himself afloat. The man who once strutted around like he owned the world was reduced to living paycheck to paycheck. And yet, he still tried to play the victim. He called me late at night, leaving voicemails about how I had ruined his life. He wrote long, pitiful emails begging me to give him another chance, promising he had changed, swearing Melissa never meant anything to him. I didn't respond to a single one. Silence became my most powerful weapon. Because here's the truth. People like Daniel don't regret what they did. They regret getting caught. And I wasn't going to give him the satisfaction of thinking he could win me back. Instead, I poured my energy into rebuilding my life. I decorated the house the way I wanted, painted the living room a bright shade of blue, and turned what used to be Daniel's office into my own little writing corner. My kids noticed the change too. The tension that once filled our home was gone, replaced with laughter, peace, and a new sense of stability. One day my daughter looked at me and said, "Mommy, you're happier now." And she was right. I was. Of course, the divorce process dragged on, but every step of the way I won. The judge granted me full custody, the house, and financial support that Daniel couldn't avoid. He tried to argue, tried to fight back, but every piece of evidence I had collected shut him down. The final hearing was almost surreal. As I sat there in the courtroom, I watched Daniel squirm in his seat, sweat gathering on his forehead. His lawyer whispering frantically in his ear. The same man who once held all the power in our marriage now looked like a cornered animal. And when the judge ruled in my favor, I felt a wave of freedom wash over me. It was done. Daniel Hayes was no longer my husband. He was just a bitter memory, a reminder of a chapter one had closed for good. But here's the thing about revenge. It doesn't always come from dramatic gestures or fiery confrontations. Sometimes the sweetest revenge is simply living well, happier, stronger, and free, while the person who wronged you falls apart. And that's exactly what happened. Months passed, and while I flourished in my career and embraced my independence, Daniel faded into the background. People stopped talking about him, stopped respecting him, stopped caring. He was just irrelevant. Meanwhile, I took trips with my kids, joined a local book club, and even started dating again. Not because I needed a man, but because I finally realized I deserved someone who valued me. But here's the twist. I didn't rush into anything. For the first time in my life, I was in no hurry to belong to anyone. Because I had finally learned that the most important relationship is the one you have with yourself. Looking back, I realized that Daniel had unintentionally given me a gift. By betraying me, he forced me to discover a strength I didn't know I had. He made me shed the version of myself that was dependent on someone else's love and approval. And now I walk taller. I smile brighter. I live louder. Daniel Hayes thought he broke me. But in truth, he built the woman I was always meant to be. Life after the divorce was like stepping into a new world. For so long, my identity had been tied to Daniel. His wife, the mother of his kids, the woman standing quietly in his shadow. But now, every day felt like I was rediscovering who Victoria Hayes really was. I started running in the mornings, something I hadn't done in years. The fresh air, the rhythm of my feet on the pavement, the sunrise. It made me feel alive again. My body grew stronger, my mind sharper. At school, I threw myself into teaching. My students adored me, and I found myself smiling more often, laughing even. Colleagues noticed the change too. One of them even told me, "Victoria, you have this glow about you now." And they were right. I did glow. Not because of anyone else, but because I was finally free. Daniel, on the other hand, was sinking deeper. Word reached me through mutual acquaintances that he was struggling to find steady work. His reputation in the corporate world was ruined, thanks to his affair with Melissa. Nobody wanted to hire a man who had been terminated under scandal. Melissa had completely cut him off. Apparently, she had moved on quickly, finding another job and another man. And Daniel, he was alone. Part of me wondered if he ever sat in his empty apartment, staring at the walls, thinking about the family he threw away. But then I reminded myself, regret doesn't erase betrayal. My kids were adjusting too. They missed their father, sure, but they began to notice the difference in our home. There was peace now. No tension. No slammed doors or angry voices. Just warmth and love. One night my son asked me, "Mom, are we going to be okay?" I smiled, kissed his forehead and said, "We already are." 'Cause we were. Still, I knew my journey wasn't just about surviving Daniel's betrayal. It was about showing my children and myself that strength doesn't come from avoiding pain. It comes from facing it, owning it, and rising above it. I even started attending therapy, not because I was broken, but because I wanted to heal the parts of me I had ignored for too long. Therapy gave me tools to rebuild not just my life but my confidence. And slowly I realized. Revenge wasn't about destroying Daniel anymore. It was about building myself. The more I thrived, the more irrelevant he became. He wasn't the center of my story anymore. It was. One evening, while journaling in my writing corner, I wrote a single line. I am not defined by what happened to me. I am defined by how I rose after it. That sentence became my mantra. And from that moment, I knew my revenge was complete. Because Daniel Hayes no longer had any power over me. Months turned into a year, and my life looked nothing like it used to. I was stronger, happier, independent. One afternoon, I was at a coffee shop grading papers when I saw Daniel walk in. His shoulders were hunched, his clothes wrinkled, his face tired. For a split second, our eyes met. He froze. I didn't. I smiled politely, then returned to my coffee and papers. That moment, that tiny, ordinary moment, was the true end of our story. Because for the first time I felt nothing. No anger. No sadness. No hate. Just indifference. He was just another stranger in the room. And that, my friends, was the sweetest revenge of all. Life didn't just go on, it bloomed. I built a career I was proud of. I created a safe, happy home for my kids. And most importantly, I built myself back, piece by piece, stronger than ever. Because betrayal doesn't get to define you. You get to define you. And that's exactly what I did. If you stayed with me through my story, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Sparkling heart. Remember, no matter how deep the betrayal, you can rise again. You can rebuild. You can take back your power. This was my story, my revenge, and my victory. And if you want to hear more powerful stories like this, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and hit the subscribe bell so you never miss the next one. Until next time. This is Victoria Hayes signing off.